What's going on, everybody? So yeah, another weekly, like I said I was trying to do. We've got a couple things going on today on this wonderfully gloomy Sunday. Kind of wanted to bring you guys through some stuff. A lot of work, a lot of busy work this week. Wasn't anything really interesting worth filming, but today we've got something that I kind of wanted to bring to your guys' attention, so maybe you don't have the same problem if you're a mechanic or working in a mechanic shop. So basically, but we'll get into that. First, what I want to do is let you guys know, for all of you that are constantly curious about what's going on with this Datsun, I think we might actually be starting to get a little progress going on this thing. So the other day the owner stopped by and he dropped off a brand new mission motor radiator. He dropped off the transmission mount that I've been waiting for forever, and we have some other parts as well, a header that we're going to have to adapt to fit this, and we have a few other odds and ends. So yes, the Datsun will be getting some work very soon. You guys will get to see that very soon. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. But now, main thing, this F-150. This is what we've been working on now for a week. It is a 1985 Ford F-150 with the 4.9 liter straight six in it, and it needed a clutch. Now, the interesting thing about this, in my business, and I'm not sure how you guys all are, very rarely do I allow a customer to bring their own parts, and there's a very specific reason for that. Most of the time, the parts that the customer brings are going to be the lowest end, rock auto, cheapest, most inexpensive part that can be found. And you know, I get it. People are not everybody's got a shit ton of money, so buying cheap rock auto parts will get them by for what they need. However, the problem with that is that 90% of the time that part is not going to last very long, and if you're spending the money to have it installed by a mechanic who is not going to warranty said part because it wasn't purchased by the mechanic, then you're kind of running into a whole nother level of crap that you're going to deal with. So some of my experiences have always been with this. Customer brings part, says, hey, install X part. You go to install the part doesn't fit. You call the customer back, say the part doesn't fit. Then they call back whoever they bought it from, whether it be Rock Auto or most of the time it's online. If it's online, then you have all the return stuff. The customer's got to come and pick up their car till they get the new part. And sometimes if the car's not running, the car ends up sitting stagnant. They get charged storage charges and everything else for having the car here because they got the wrong part, when in all reality, should have just let the mechanic buy the part, paid the extra $100 and called it a day. Now, in my particular business, my rule is here, if a customer brings their own part, then I do not warranty the part nor the labor to install the part. So basically, if that part fails, then that's on the customer. If that part fails and I have to replace it with another part, that labor again for a second time is on the customer. I'm very, very strict with that rule because that happened to me a lot, where I was installing parts that customers had brought. This is back, you know, when I first started doing all this stuff. Customer would bring the part, I'd install it. 2 or 3 days later, they come back and say, hey, my car's messing up again, and it turns out it was that part. And I would say, you know what, it's all right, just let me get the part for you this time, I'll pop it in, whatever, and I would eat the labor cost on it. And that was happening more often than not, so I decided, you know what, parts and labor, no warranty, as long as the customer brings the part. They get the job done, they get the job done right, but if that part fails, then they are responsible 100% for the cost associated with replacing said part. So now that brings me into what's going on with this F-150. Now, like I said, I normally don't allow customers to bring their own parts. I'd much rather do it myself because I know that it's going to get done properly. This customer, however, is a different story. He's an older gentleman, and he's been in the car scene for many, many years. He knows what he's doing. He's just at the point in his life where he's retired and he doesn't want to work on his own vehicles anymore. So he brought the truck down to me with a failed throwout bearing. Throwout bearing blew apart inside, and so basically he said, you know what, replace the clutch, replace the flywheel, get everything freshened up, do all the fluids on it, make sure the truck is 100%. You know, it's an 85 F-150. It's probably not worth doing the work to it, but he loves this truck more than anything. So you know what, we'll keep it going for him. So that was on a Friday. Now, there was a swap meet that weekend, and then he was dropping the truck off Monday morning. So he drops the truck off Monday morning, and he's got a brand new flywheel in the passenger side for the truck. And I said, okay, where did you get the flywheel? He said, I bought the flywheel from the swap meet from a gentleman who used to work for Ford, and he checked the part number and verified that it is for this particular truck. I said, okay. Now, me trusting that this gentleman knows what he's doing, and he absolutely does, and that the guy at the swap meet actually worked for a Ford dealer, that I couldn't verify. I trusted that this flywheel was going to be the right one. Well, that was unfortunately a mistake on my part, and the reason why I do not allow customers to bring their own parts. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera. This is the flywheel that he bought at the swap meet. Now you can see this piece right here. That is a counterweight. That counterweight is used to balance out the engine. Some engines are balanced via the flywheel, some engines are internally balanced, and some engines have a balancer on the front of the crankshaft to balance the engine. Now, the 6-cylinder that's in this is internally balanced. This flywheel is weighted. I put this flywheel in the truck, assuming, my mistake, that it was the correct flywheel. And as soon as I started the truck, this weight caused the truck to vibrate so badly that it just about knocked the radio out of the dash. So immediately I knew what the problem was, because the truck did not have a vibration when it came in. I pulled the truck in, called the customer back, said, listen, this is the wrong flywheel. Unfortunately, I have to pull everything apart again and basically do the clutch all over, including having your factory flywheel resurfaced. So that's what we ended up doing, pulling it all apart again. After having spent a full day doing the job to begin with, we now had to pull it apart again, pull the flywheel, take his factory flywheel up to the machine shop, and luckily I have a good friend of mine who knocked it out for me in a day, who works for a machine shop here in Connecticut, and put the whole thing back together again. So I had the clutch job, the complete clutch job, done by Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday morning I had to pull the entire transmission out of the vehicle again, get the flywheel up to my buddy, come back down, and by Thursday I had the full truck back together yet again. So now we did this clutch job twice. And again, my rule, if the customer's part is incorrect or fails and we do the install, then they're responsible for the labor. Now, unfortunately, I can't be aware of what every single part number means and what every single part number looks like. And unfortunately, that particular flywheel, the part number that is on it, doing an initial Google search on that part number had no results, and I ended up having to call a friend of mine at a dealership, have him cross-reference that part, and it ended up being an aftermarket flywheel for a Ford 302. This is the 4.9 liter 6-cylinder, not the 302 V8, not the 5 liter V8. 5 liter V8 is balanced via the flywheel, whereas this motor is internally balanced. So there was our problem. So now this customer unfortunately had to pay for a second clutch job, basically, plus the machining of the flywheel. And on top of that, he can't even return the flywheel that he bought because he bought it at a swap meet. So now he's stuck trying to sell a Ford 302 flywheel that fits an 87 to 91 F-150. So something to look out for, guys, something to be very cautious of. That is one thing that if you're a mechanic and you're working on people's cars, don't let them bring their own parts unless you specifically told them exactly what to buy and where to buy it from. And two, if you're going to allow customers to bring their own parts, then make sure that they know for sure that if they bring their own part, there is no warranty on it, and you will not warranty your labor as well. Now we've got everything corrected. The clutch is back together. The truck is back together. We test drove it. It's great. And now, luckily, this customer wants us to replace everything in the front end as well. It needs rotors, pads, it needs U-joints, it needs a few other odds and ends. So we're going to do that today. I'm going to take you along on a little bit of it because these front ends are kind of funky. And yeah, we'll do that. But that's been the story with this past week with this truck. Hopefully, if you're a consumer and you're taking your car to a mechanic, let the mechanic get the parts. You're going to spend a little bit of extra money, of course, because there's going to be markup. However, you are going to get your warranty. You're going to get a parts warranty. You're going to get a labor warranty. My parts and labor are warranted for 90 days, depending on certain things. Some things are warranted for a year, parts and labor. which gives you peace of mind to know that if whatever the mechanic did breaks, you can bring it right back to them and they will fix it and it will not cost you anything. So, little word of advice on both sides, consumer versus mechanic, or if you're doing this for yourself or on the side or whatever. If you work for a dealership, it's a different story, but you guys kind of get the basic idea. So let your mechanic, if he's good, pick up your parts and do what needs to be done. It'll save you money in the long run, and you'll be much happier and you'll have better peace of mind. So we're going to get into doing the U-joints and stuff on this truck, and I'll film a little bit of it, kind of give you guys a little step-by-step with these things because they are kind of weird. So let me get it up in the air, and as soon as I get it up in the air, I'll bring it back. Here we go. We got it up in the air. We got the driver's side tire and wheel off of it. We're down to the rotors. Now you can see this thing sits around a lot, so it's got a lot of rust and rot and whatnot on these rotors. They're absolutely horrid. The front side actually looks a lot better than the back side does, but you can see there's actually pieces of the face of the rotor missing right there. Now we have to do the U-joints, which, let me lock the hub in real quick. You'll be able to see the U-joint right in there. When we spin this wheel, it will, if it'll focus, there we go. See, that U-joint is relatively bad in there. So we got to get in those and replace it. So now what we have to do is we actually have to take this worn hub off. This focus is absolutely terrible. Sorry about that, guys. We have to take this hub off, so we got to take all these Allen bolts out, pull this hub, then we got to pull the internals of it, then there's a big spanner nut inside here that we have to take off, and then this entire rotor assembly with the hub will all come off, giving us access to the spindle. So we're going to do that now real quick. Alright guys, so now that that's off, we have a snap ring that's located right in this area here. We're going to pull the snap ring and then we'll pull this entire assembly out.
I'm running out of time, every day goes by so fast, and every moment counts, baby, I don't want to miss a thing. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, or hang out in hotel bars, driving somewhere in your car. We can sleep under the stars, we can sleep under the stars, under the stars.
Alright, so now that we got that, we got the spanner nut that needs to go here. We have the tool for that. It actually goes inside. It's got 4 prongs on it. I'll show it to you guys in a second. Alright, there we go. So you can see it's got 4 prongs on it, and it goes inside the hub, and it actually fits on the nut, and we'll take the actual spindle nut off. So we're going to do that, and then we'll take the full spindle off, and we'll show you what else we need to do. Alright guys, there's the spindle nut itself, and you can see the 4 grooves on it. Alright, so now we're down to the actual hub itself. Hopefully you guys will be able to see in there. Yeah, you can. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nuts that need to come off of here. For those of you guys that were bitching at me about having standard size tools and that I didn't need them and it was a waste of money, guess what? All of these are 9/16. And you may think that a 14 millimeter is going to fit. It doesn't. 9/16 is just a half a millimeter bigger than 14 millimeter. Sometimes you can get away with it, in this case you cannot. So we need to take this particular hub off, get this out, and then we can actually pull our axle with our U-joint straight out of there. So we're going to do that now.
Let's make the most of this night. Come on baby, take my hand. And we don't need to do the things we don't want to do.
Alright guys, so here's where you're going to run into an issue. Getting the actual U-joint through the spindle knuckle itself is going to be a bitch, especially if they're old and the caps have been pushed out a little bit. It's going to make it very difficult. So what I like to do is I take a brass punch and put it behind the actual U-joint and just give it a quick tap, and they usually come right out. So we'll do that now. And there we go. Here's the axle. And here's that U-joint. No bueno. So we're going to pop this U-joint out. We're going to put everything back together. Once I get everything back together, I'll kind of show you guys some little tips and tricks. Now, one of the things you want to make sure you do if you're working on one of these is before you put the new U-joint in this axle, take it over to your spindle and see if the U-joint itself will fit through the spindle. And if it's just barely not fitting, you could take a little sanding drum or something and sand out the inside of this knuckle to make this fit through, because you don't want to press this in only to not have it fit through any longer. So we're going to get on that. I'll bring you guys back when we're putting it together and we'll go from there. So we got everything back together. Hub is back on. This hub is on. We got the new rotor mounted. Just a FYI, these rotors actually mount to the back side of the hub via press fit to the studs. Now, I highly recommend you use a press to push these out and push them back in. If you try drawing them in with the lug nuts, you're going to strip the lug nuts or strip the studs, and then you're going to be screwed. Now, we set all the bearing preloads. Everything is good. We got the brand new U-joint in there. And we'll lock the hub so you can see that it actually does function like it should now. And we'll unlock the hub and make sure that we're freewheeling, and we are perfectly good. So everything is excellent. We did run into the issue where the U-joint with the axle attached to it wouldn't fit back through the knuckle, so we had to remount the knuckle a little bit and then kind of tap it through. But that's the norm. You're going to run into that trying to pull it out, and you're going to run into that trying to put it back in again. So other side is going to be exactly the same as this side was. So I'm not going to show you guys the other side. This side was pretty much just a, you know, here's how you tear it down. You put it back together the exact same way you tore it down, so nothing special there. But yeah, something in case you're working on some of these older Fords. That's a little bit of info for you on what was going on with this particular truck, a little bit of info for you on what to watch out for when it comes to customer supplied parts, and a few other odds and ends. I hope you guys found this video very, very useful. I'm going to go do the other side of this truck now, get it done, so after a week I can get it out of here. And I will see you guys on the next video. Please like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. I really appreciate all you guys that watch my videos, and I really hope some of this stuff helps. So I will see you guys on the next one. And yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good night, everybody.